So the question is, how do you be the perfect guest on a podcast, right? You've just been invited to join someone on a podcast, to get behind a microphone or even behind a camera, and you're asking yourself, all right, how do I prepare myself? How do I come prepared, look good, sound good? I want this to be a good opportunity for my friend, for whoever is going to be the host of the show, and for myself. Being on a podcast is fantastic. It's a great way to show off your expertise, to share stories, to share experience, for collaboration, for other people to get to know you. Joining someone else on their podcast is a great way to kind of cross promote. How do I make myself as prepared as possible without going crazy? And how do I look and sound my best? First and foremost, if you're going to be remote, you want to make sure you have stable internet connection. There are so many times that I personally have been on a podcast or I've been behind the scenes with someone joining remotely. And if you don't have good internet connection, or if you're logging on via a hotspot, you drop regularly throughout the conversation. It's annoying. You lose the rhythm. You lose the momentum. It starts to not be fun, and it's much more of a chore. And at that point, it's hard to look and sound your very best. Next thing is to use an external microphone. So truthfully, our phones, our computers, they all have built-in microphones, but just because they do doesn't mean that's what you should be using. I highly recommend you go out and get something that either plugs into your phone or plugs into your computer, something like a Blue Yeti, a tried and true microphone that's at this point an industry standard. You could pick it up anywhere from $80 to $120. It plugs straight into your computer and it's great. It's reliable. There's going to be a link to a Blue Yeti down in the description below. It was my very first microphone. I really can't recommend it enough if you're looking for something basic to get the job done. Aside from a microphone, you can use a pair of headphones, but you want to make sure those headphones don't have a microphone that will pick up your audio, pick up your voice instead of the actual microphone. So just be careful of that. I personally like to use headphones because I get to hear exactly how I sound in conjunction with the person I'm recording with. So I know if I'm being too loud, if they're being too loud, how to adjust here and there. The next thing is, if you're going to be a guest on a podcast, specifically remotely, you want to make sure the location that you're going to be recording from, make sure it's quiet, make sure it's controlled. Try to keep kids and pets out of that room and away from that area. Try to coordinate so that while you're recording, construction workers won't be around, nobody's going to be mowing the lawn outside. Make sure that it's controlled so that you can ensure you sound the best. Just because you're joining someone on a podcast doesn't necessarily mean they're going to put a lot of editing into it or they're tech savvy. So if something's going on, if a baby starts crying or a dog starts barking outside, that might pick up in the final episode. It's going to take away from the quality of the recording. The next thing is silence your phone. If you're in person or if you're remote, if you're a guest on a podcast, put your phone away unless you have notes on it. But I would put on do not disturb. Make sure nothing's going to bing, ting, or ring. This is going to sound silly, but just like you would in any kind of social interaction, make sure you're fully focused. Listen to what the questions are, listen to the topics, be engaged in the conversation, come with your own questions, your own notes, your own suggestions, and I would say only be on your phone if you're using it specifically for the podcast. Otherwise, put it in your pocket, put it away, stick it in a different room so that you're fully present, you're fully engaged, and you're fully aware. The next tip I would say to be a great guest on a podcast is be yourself. Don't overthink it. A lot of times people sit down in front of a microphone and they feel the need to project in a way that's not them. They feel like they need to come up with this radio persona or they have to start acting. Nobody wants to hear that. It's kind of a turnoff. People want to get to know you. They want to hear who you are. You're being invited on a guest for you, not to play some part, unless it was specifically said before, hey, I'm inviting you. Let's say you invite Tom Holland on a podcast. You say, Tom, I'm inviting you on a podcast. I'm really inviting Spider-Man. So come with your whole Spider-Man. That would be a different story. But if Tom Holland is going to be invited onto a guest, they want to hear him. They want to hear his English accent, not his American accent and his version of Spider-Man. It's very different. So keep in mind, be yourself, and you might have to ground yourself. You might have to say, all right, just be natural, pretend like the mics and the cameras aren't even there, and have fun with it. Don't go crazy, don't beat yourself up thinking too much about it. Just have fun and be yourself. The next thing I'm going to recommend when it comes to being the perfect guest on a podcast is follow the host's lead. If they're asking you questions, follow their lead. If you don't understand a question, ask them to restate it or rephrase it so that you guys have a productive conversation. Don't interrupt, don't interject. You don't want to step on the host's toes. That's not going to look very good. The last thing I'm going to recommend is if you know the topic you're going to be discussing, or you know there's going to be a couple topics you're going to discuss, write some notes down beforehand, whether it's on your phone, on a piece of paper. Write some stuff down so that you can go into the podcast recording prepared. You have an idea of what you want to say already. Now, it doesn't mean script out all of your answers. I would not recommend that. I have seen people do that and it sounds terrible. Don't script out exactly what you're going to say, but have like a point of reference, something that you can maybe glance at throughout the conversation just to keep you on track. And this is just another thing that will help you look and sound as best as you possibly can when you're invited to be a guest on a podcast. That being said, I hope you enjoy. I hope you have a very fun time on the podcast you've been invited to. Hopefully this will be one of many. If you have any questions or comments, I'm down below in the comments. You can catch me there. And I will see you guys in the next video.